I smoothed my apron and stepped back to admire my handiwork. The living room gleamed, not a speck of dust in sight. Samuel would be pleased when he came home from work. At least, I hoped he would notice. The clock on the mantel chimed 3. I still had time before I needed to start dinner. My gaze fell on the bookshelf, and I sighed. It had been ages since I'd reorganized it. As I pulled books from the shelves, a folded piece of paper fluttered to the floor. Curious, I picked it up and unfolded it. My breath caught as I recognized Samuel's handwriting. "My dearest Harper," it began. "I can't believe we're getting married tomorrow. I've never been so sure of anything in my life. You're my soulmate, my best friend, my everything. I promise to love you more each day, to cherish every moment we share, and to always put you first. Forever yours, Samuel." Tears pricked my eyes. When was the last time Samuel had said anything like that to me? I couldn't remember. The front door opened, startling me. "Harper?" Samuel called. I hastily wiped my eyes and tucked the letter into my pocket. "In here," I replied, my voice wavering slightly. Samuel appeared in the doorway, briefcase in hand. He looked tired, his tie loosened and hair slightly mussed. "What's all this?" he asked, gesturing at the half-empty bookshelf. "Just doing some cleaning," I said, forcing a smile. "How was your day?" He shrugged. Same old, same old. Listen, I've got to take a call. I'll be in my office." Before I could respond, he was gone. I sighed and turned back to the bookshelf, the letter burning a hole in my pocket. An hour later, I was putting the finishing touches on dinner when my phone buzzed. A text from Samuel. My heart leapt, hoping for... what? An apology? A declaration of love? I opened the message and froze. "Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. Wear that red dress I love." My hands shook as I stared at the screen. This wasn't meant for me. Samuel hadn't bought me a red dress in years. "Harper?" Samuel's voice made me jump. He stood in the kitchen doorway, frowning. "Everything okay?" I plastered on a smile. "Fine. Just a bit startled. Dinner's almost ready." He nodded and retreated to his office again. I gripped the counter, my mind racing. What should I do? Confront him? Pretend I hadn't seen it? Another text came through. "Sorry, ignore that last message. Sent to the wrong person." I laughed bitterly. The wrong person indeed. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could end this right now, demand answers. But something held me back. A plan began to form in my mind. "No problem," I typed back. "See you tonight." I hit send and took a deep breath. Let him think his secret was safe. I'd play along, for now. "Dinner's ready," I called out, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Samuel appeared, phone in hand. He smiled at me, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Smells great, honey." As we sat down to eat, I watched him across the table. My husband of 10 years, the man I thought I knew better than anyone. How long had he been lying to me? "Everything okay?" Samuel asked, noticing my stare. I smiled sweetly. Perfect, just perfect. Little did he know, the game had changed, and I was ready to play. I woke up early the next morning, my mind racing with plans. Samuel was still asleep, snoring softly beside me. I studied his face, searching for any sign of guilt or deceit. How could he look so peaceful when he was tearing our marriage apart? In the kitchen, I busied myself making breakfast, my thoughts churning. The smell of coffee filled the air as Samuel shuffled in, yawning. "Morning, honey," he mumbled, reaching for a mug. I plastered on a smile. "Good morning. Sleep well?" He nodded, not meeting my eyes. "Listen, I've got an early meeting. I'll grab something on the way." My heart sank. "Oh, all right then." As he headed for the door, I called out, "Have a good day, I love you." Samuel paused, his hand on the doorknob. "You too," he said, then he was gone. I slumped against the counter, fighting back tears. How had we become so distant? My phone buzzed, another text from Samuel. My stomach clenched as I opened it. "Can't stop thinking about last night. You were amazing." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. This wasn't meant for me either. Before I could think better of it, I typed back, "I can't wait to see you again." "When?" The response came quickly. "Lunch today? Our usual spot?" I took a deep breath. "Perfect. See you then." My mind raced. Our usual spot? How long had this been going on? I spent the morning in a daze, mechanically going through my chores. At 11:30, I found myself standing in front of my closet, staring at my clothes. What would Amelia wear? I pulled out a red dress I hadn't worn in years. It was tighter than I remembered, but it would do. I applied makeup with a shaking hand, trying to channel the confidence of a woman who could steal a married man. At 12:15, I walked into Le Petit Café, scanning the room. My heart stopped when I saw Samuel at a corner table, his back to me. A bouquet of roses sat on the table. I approached slowly, my heels clicking on the tile floor. "Hello, handsome," I purred, trying to sound sultry. Samuel turned, his face lighting up. Then he saw me. The color drained from his face. "Harper," he stammered. "What are you doing here?" I slid into the seat across from him, my heart pounding. "Waiting for my lunch date." "And you?" He swallowed hard. "I can explain." "Can you?" I interrupted, my voice low and dangerous. "Can you explain why you're meeting another woman for lunch? Why you're buying her flowers?" I gestured to the roses. Samuel's eyes darted around the restaurant. "Please, not here. Let's go home and talk about this." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "No, I think here is perfect. Tell me about Amelia, Samuel. How long has this been going on?" He flinched at her name. "It's not what you think. Amelia is—" "Your secretary," I finished for him. "I know." Samuel's jaw dropped. "How did you—" "I'm not as naive as you think," I snapped. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Tears welled in his eyes. "Harper, please. I love you. This was a mistake. I'll end it, I swear." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Too late," I hissed. I grabbed the roses and dumped them in his lap. "Enjoy your lunch date." As I stormed out of the cafe, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Amelia. We need to talk." I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. What now? I paced the living room, Amelia's text burning a hole in my phone. Should I meet her? Ignore her? My emotions were a tangled mess of anger, betrayal, and curiosity. A knock at the door startled me. I opened it to find a stern-faced woman in her 50s. "Harper Williams?" she asked. I nodded, confused. "I'm Diane Reeves, private investigator. You called my office yesterday?" Realization dawned. In my emotional haze, I'd forgotten about the call I'd made after discovering Samuel's texts. "Yes, come in," I said, ushering her inside. Diane sat on the couch, all business. "Tell me what's going on." I spilled everything. The texts, the confrontation at the cafe, Amelia's message. Diane listened intently, jotting notes. "What do you want to know?" she asked when I finished. "Everything," I said, my voice hard. "How long it's been going on, where they meet, what they do. I want proof." Diane nodded. "I can do that, but are you sure? Sometimes the truth is worse than not knowing." I met her gaze. "I'm sure." As Diane left, my phone buzzed again. "Amelia, please meet me. It's not what you think." I stared at the message, torn. Finally, I replied, "Fine. Where?" 30 minutes later, I sat in a small park, my heart racing. A young woman approached, tall, blonde, beautiful. "Amelia." "Harper?" she asked hesitantly. I nodded curtly. She sat beside me, wringing her hands. "I'm so sorry about all this. I never meant to hurt you." "Then why?" I demanded. "Why sleep with my husband?" Amelia's eyes widened. "Sleep with— No, Harper, I'm not having an affair with Samuel." I scoffed. "Right, the texts, the lunch dates, the flowers, all innocent?" "Yes," Amelia insisted. "We've been planning a surprise for you." I froze. "What?" She sighed. "It's your anniversary next month. Samuel wanted to renew your vows, make it special. He's been so excited, talking about it constantly." My mind reeled. Could it be true? But the texts. What about the message about last night? I asked. Amelia blushed. We were practicing his speech. He was nervous about getting emotional. I felt dizzy. Had I misunderstood everything? "Why didn't he tell me?" I whispered. "He wanted it to be a surprise. God, I've ruined everything," Amelia said, tears in her eyes. I stood abruptly. "I need to go." "Harper, wait." But I was already walking away, my thoughts in chaos. At home, I paced restlessly. Should I believe Amelia? It seemed far-fetched, yet it explained so much. The secrecy, the odd hours, the cryptic texts. The front door opened. Samuel, he looked awful, tie askew, eyes red-rimmed. When he saw me, he froze. "Harper," he breathed, "I'm so sorry. Please let me explain." I held up a hand. "Is it true about the vow renewal?" Samuel's eyes widened. "How did you—" "Amelia told me," I interrupted. "Is it true?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, I wanted to surprise you, to show you how much I love you. I've been distant lately, working so much. I wanted to make it up to you." Tears filled my eyes. "Oh, Samuel." He stepped closer, hope in his eyes. "Can you forgive me for the secrecy, for making you doubt us?" I wanted to. God, how I wanted to. But something held me back. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I need time to think." Samuel nodded, pain etched on his face. "I understand. I'll give you space." As he turned to leave, my phone buzzed. A message from Diane. "Found something. You need to see this." My heart sank. What now? I met Diane at a quiet coffee shop, my stomach in knots. She slid a manila folder across the table without a word. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Open it," she replied, her face grim. With trembling hands, I flipped open the folder. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Samuel and Amelia, laughing together at a restaurant, Samuel helping Amelia into his car, and then my heart stopped. A photo of them embracing outside a hotel. "No," I breathed. "This can't be right," Amelia said. Diane's voice was gentle. "People lie, Harper, especially when they're caught." I flipped through more photos, each one a dagger to my heart. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. In several pictures, there was a third person, my mother-in-law, Elizabeth. "What is she doing there?" I demanded. Diane leaned forward. "That's not all. Look at this." She pulled out her phone, showing me a series of text messages. My eyes widened as I read the casual, friendly banter between Amelia and Elizabeth. They were discussing Samuel, their plans, even joking about me. "How did you get these?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I have my ways," Diane said. "The important thing is, you now know the truth." I sat back, my mind reeling. Not only was Samuel cheating, but my mother-in-law was in on it. The betrayal cut deep, leaving me breathless. "What do I do now?" I whispered. Diane's eyes were sympathetic but firm. "That's up to you. But whatever you decide, you need to protect yourself." I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. "Thank you, Diane. I know what I need to do." Back home, I paced the living room, my mind racing. The vow renewal story had been so convincing. Had Amelia come up with that on the spot, or was it a pre-planned excuse? My phone buzzed. A text from Elizabeth. "Dinner at our place tonight? Samuel says you two have been having some troubles. Let's talk it out as a family." I stared at the message, anger bubbling up inside me. Family? She had the audacity to talk about family while helping her son cheat on me? Before I could respond, another text came through. This one from Samuel. "I'm sorry about everything. Please come to dinner. I want to make things right." Make things right? How could he possibly make this right? I took a deep breath, weighing my options. I could confront them all at dinner, lay out the evidence and watch them squirm. Or I could play along, gather more information and plan my next move carefully. As I stood there, torn, my eyes fell on a framed photo of Samuel and me on our wedding day. We looked so happy, so in love. What had happened to us? Suddenly, I remembered something, our prenuptial agreement. I rushed to Samuel's office, rifling through his files until I found it. There, in black and white, was a clause I'd forgotten about. Any infidelity would result in the cheating spouse forfeiting their share of our assets. A slow smile spread across my face. Maybe I didn't need to confront them just yet. Maybe I could turn this situation to my advantage. I picked up my phone and typed out a reply to Elizabeth. "Dinner sounds lovely. I'll be there." Then I texted Samuel. "I'm ready to talk. See you at your parents'." As I hit send, a sense of purpose washed over me. They thought they had me fooled, but I was done being the naive, trusting wife. It was time to take control of my life and my future. I looked at myself in the mirror, straightening my shoulders. "Game on," I whispered to my reflection. Tonight, I would smile and play nice. But tomorrow? Tomorrow, I would start planning my revenge. I arrived at Elizabeth and George's house, my heart pounding beneath my carefully composed exterior. Samuel's car was already in the driveway. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of my plan. Smile, nod, and gather information. Elizabeth opened the door, her face a mask of concern. "Harper, darling, we've been so worried about you." I forced a smile. "Thank you for having me over, Elizabeth." As I stepped inside, I caught a whiff of her perfume, the same scent I'd noticed on Samuel's shirts lately. My stomach churned. Samuel stood as I entered the living room, his eyes pleading. "Harper, I'm so glad you came." I nodded stiffly, taking a seat across from him. George, my father-in-law, handed me a glass of wine with a sympathetic smile. "Now," Elizabeth said, settling beside Samuel, "let's talk about what's been going on between you two." I sipped my wine, watching them over the rim of my glass. "Yes, let's." Samuel cleared his throat. "Harper, I know I've been distant lately. Work has been crazy, but that's no excuse. I want to make things right." I raised an eyebrow. "And how do you propose to do that?" He shared a glance with Elizabeth. "Well, that's why we wanted to have dinner, to talk about our plans." "Plans," I echoed, my voice carefully neutral. Elizabeth leaned forward, her eyes bright. Samuel's been working so hard lately because he's up for a big promotion. If he gets it, we thought you two could take a second honeymoon, rekindle the romance. I nearly choked on my wine. They were still sticking to this charade? That sounds lovely, I managed. Where were you thinking of going? Samuel smiled, relief evident on his face. I was thinking Paris. You've always wanted to go, right? I nodded, remembering all the times I'd mentioned that dream, only to have Samuel brush it off as impractical. Now suddenly, he remembered? As the evening progressed, I played my part perfectly. I laughed at their jokes, expressed excitement about their plans, and pretended not to notice the meaningful glances they exchanged. After dessert, Elizabeth pulled me aside. Harper, dear, I know things have been tough, but Samuel loves you so much. Give him another chance. I smiled, bile rising in my throat. Of course, Elizabeth. Family is everything, right? She beamed, pulling me into a hug. Over her shoulder, I saw Samuel watching us, a look of guilt flashing across his face. As we prepared to leave, George pulled Samuel into his study for a quick chat. I seized the opportunity to excuse myself to the bathroom. On my way back, I paused outside the study door, voices drifting out. Son, are you sure about this? George was saying. If Harper finds out... She won't, Samuel interrupted. Once I get this promotion, everything will fall into place. Trust me. I leaned closer, straining to hear more, when a floorboard creaked beneath my foot. The voices inside fell silent. I hurried back to the living room, my mind racing. What were they planning, and how did it involve me? On the drive home, Samuel reached for my hand. Thank you for coming tonight. I promise things will get better. I squeezed his hand, my voice sweet. I'm sure they will, darling. As soon as we got home, I excused myself to bed, claiming a headache. But sleep was the furthest thing from my mind. I pulled out the prenup, rereading the infidelity clause. Then I opened my laptop, researching divorce lawyers in our area. A plan was forming in my mind. Samuel thought he could play me for a fool, but he had no idea what was coming. Tomorrow, I decided, I would visit a lawyer. It was time to protect myself and take control of my future. As I closed my laptop, a sense of calm washed over me. For the first time in weeks, I felt powerful. Let them think they had me fooled. Soon, they'd learn just how wrong they were. I paced our living room, my heart racing. Today was the day. After weeks of gathering evidence, consulting with lawyers, and steeling my nerves, I was finally ready to confront Samuel. The front door opened, and Samuel walked in, loosening his tie. Harper, I'm home. I took a deep breath. In here, Samuel. He entered the room, his smile fading as he saw my expression. What's wrong? Sit down, I said, my voice steady. We need to talk. Samuel sank into the armchair, confusion etched on his face. Okay, you're scaring me. What's going on? I stood before him, clutching a manila folder. I know about Amelia. The color drained from his face. Harper, I can explain. Save it, I snapped, tossing the folder onto his lap. Photos spilled out, Samuel and Amelia at restaurants, hotels, even our vacation home. He stared at the images, his hands shaking. How did you? It doesn't matter, I interrupted. What matters is that you've been lying to me, for months, maybe years. Samuel looked up, tears in his eyes. Harper, please, it was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. A mistake? Is that what you call sleeping with your secretary and conspiring with your mother to keep me in the dark? His eyes widened. My mother? What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, showing him the texts between Elizabeth and Amelia. Your mother's been in on it the whole time. Some family, huh? Samuel buried his face in his hands. Oh, God, Harper, I'm so sorry. I'll end it with Amelia, I swear. We can work this out. For a moment I faltered. The pain in his voice sounded genuine. But then I remembered all the lies, all the nights I'd spent alone while he was with her. It's too late, I said, my voice cold. I want a divorce. He looked up, panic in his eyes. No, please, I love you. We can fix this. Fix it? I scoffed. How? You've broken my trust, Samuel. You've made a fool of me in front of your family, your colleagues. How can we possibly come back from that? Samuel stood, reaching for me. Give me a chance. I'll do anything. Counseling, a fresh start somewhere new. Whatever it takes. I stepped back, avoiding his touch. And what about Amelia? Your mother? How can I ever trust you around them again? I'll quit my job, he said desperately. We'll move away from my parents. Please, Harper, don't throw away 10 years of marriage. For a moment, I wavered. The thought of starting over terrified me. But then I remembered the prenup, the infidelity clause. I had a way out, a chance at a new life. I need time to think, I said finally. I can't make this decision right now. Relief flooded Samuel's face. Of course, take all the time you need. I'll sleep in the guest room. As he turned to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from Diane, the private investigator. Urgent news about Amelia. Call ASAP. My heart raced. What now? Samuel, I called out. He turned, hope in his eyes. This isn't over. We'll talk more tomorrow. He nodded, shoulders slumping as he left the room. I sank onto the couch, my mind reeling. Just when I thought I had everything figured out, there was another twist. What could Diane have discovered about Amelia? As I dialed Diane's number, a strange mix of dread and excitement filled me. Whatever this news was, it would change everything. Again. The phone rang, each second stretching into eternity. Finally, Diane answered. Harper, she said, her voice urgent. You're not going to believe what I found out about Amelia. I gripped the phone tighter, my heart pounding. Tell me everything. My hands shook as I hung up the phone. Diane's words echoed in my mind, each revelation more shocking than the last. Amelia wasn't just having an affair with Samuel, she was playing him too. I paced the living room, my mind racing. How could I use this information? The prenup clause about infidelity suddenly seemed like small potatoes compared to what I'd just learned. A soft knock on the doorframe made me jump. Samuel stood there, looking haggard. Harper, he said softly, can we talk? I nodded, steeling myself. Actually, I have something to tell you. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the distance between us a chasm of betrayal and lies. Samuel, I began, my voice surprisingly steady. I know about the promotion. His eyes widened. You do? And I know about the plan to use the bonus to pay off your gambling debts. Samuel's face drained of color. How did you? That's not important, I cut him off. What's important is that I know everything. The affair, the lies, the money you've been funneling from our joint account. He slumped back, defeat written across his face. Harper, I can explain. No need, I said, pulling out a folder. Our prenup explains it all quite clearly. Infidelity clause, remember? Samuel's eyes darted to the folder, panic setting in. Wait, you can't. I can, and I will, I said firmly, but that's not all. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the final blow. Amelia isn't who you think she is. Confusion replaced the panic on his face. What do you mean? She's been playing you, Samuel. She's not just your mistress, she's been working with your competitor. Every bit of inside information you've shared with her, it's gone straight to them. Samuel's jaw dropped. No, that's impossible. Amelia wouldn't. She would, and she did, I interrupted, sliding photos across the coffee table. Here's Amelia meeting with your rival CEO, and here's a copy of the confidential files you gave her, time-stamped an hour before your competitors suddenly changed their strategy. Samuel's hands shook as he looked at the evidence. Oh, God, he whispered. What have I done? For a moment I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. There's more, I said, my voice softer now. Your mother knew. His head snapped up. What? Elizabeth knew about Amelia's true motives. She's been protecting the family business, at your expense. Samuel stood abruptly, pacing the room. This can't be happening. It can't be real. I watched him, a strange mix of satisfaction and pity washing over me. It is real, Samuel, and now you have a choice to make. He turned to me, desperation in his eyes. What choice? I stood, facing him squarely. You can fight me on the divorce, try to keep your assets, and watch as I take this information public. Your career, your reputation, gone. Or what? He whispered. Or you can sign the papers I've had drawn up, walk away cleanly. I'll keep your secrets and you can salvage what's left of your career. Samuel stared at me, a myriad of emotions flashing across his face. You've thought of everything, haven't you? I nodded. I had to. He sank back onto the couch, head in his hands. I never meant for any of this to happen. I love you, Harper. I always have. For a moment, my resolve wavered, but then I remembered all the lies, all the pain. Love isn't enough, Samuel. Not anymore. I placed the divorce papers on the coffee table, along with a pen. The choice is yours. Samuel looked up at me, tears in his eyes. What happened to us, Harper? I took a deep breath, fighting back my own tears. You happened, Samuel, you and your choices. As I watched him reach for the pen, a strange sense of calm washed over me. This was it. The end of one chapter, the beginning of another. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it head on. 6 months after the divorce, I stood in front of my new boutique, Harper's Haven, my heart swelling with pride. The grand opening ribbon fluttered in the breeze, a symbol of my newfound freedom and purpose. As I unlocked the door, my phone buzzed. A text from Diane. "Congrats on the big day. You've come so far." I smiled, remembering how different my life had been just half a year ago. The betrayal, the pain, the uncertainty, it all seemed like a distant nightmare now. The bell chimed as my first customer walked in. To my surprise, it was Elizabeth, Samuel's mother. "Harper," she said, her voice hesitant. "I hope I'm not intruding." I straightened my shoulders, meeting her gaze. "Not at all. Welcome to Harper's Haven." Elizabeth looked around, taking in the carefully curated clothing and accessories. "It's lovely. You've done well for yourself." "Thank you," I replied, my voice cool but polite. "What can I help you with today?" She fidgeted with her purse strap. "Actually, I came to apologize. What I did, keeping Samuel's secrets, enabling his behavior, it was wrong. I thought I was protecting the family, but I ended up hurting everyone." I studied her face, searching for sincerity. To my surprise, I found it. "I appreciate your apology, Elizabeth. It means a lot." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "How is he?" "Samuel, I mean. We haven't spoken since." Everything came out. I sighed, remembering our last encounter. "He's struggling, but he's getting help. The gambling addiction, the lying, he's facing it all head-on now." Elizabeth's shoulders sagged with relief. "That's good to hear. And you? How are you doing?" I gestured around the boutique. "I'm doing better than I ever imagined. This place, it's not just a business, it's a fresh start." As if on cue, the bell chimed again. Amelia walked in, freezing when she saw Elizabeth and me. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "I can come back later." "No," I said firmly. "Stay. We all need to clear the air." The three of us stood in a tense triangle, years of secrets and betrayals hanging between us. Amelia spoke first. "Harper, I know nothing I say can make up for what I did, but I want you to know I'm truly sorry. The corporate espionage, the affair, I got in way over my head." I nodded, surprised by the lack of anger I felt. "Thank you for your honesty, Amelia. It's more than I got during our marriage." Elizabeth turned to Amelia, her voice sharp. "You nearly destroyed my son's career and my family's company. How dare you show your face here?" I held up a hand. "Elizabeth, please. We've all made mistakes. What matters now is how we move forward." The two women looked at me in surprise. "You're right," Elizabeth said softly. "Harper, your strength amazes me. How can you be so forgiving?" I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "It's not about forgiveness. It's about letting go. Holding on to anger and resentment only hurts me in the end." Amelia wiped away a tear. "I don't deserve your kindness, but thank you. I hope you find happiness, Harper. You deserve it." As they left the boutique, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of emotions and changes, but I'd emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-assured than ever before. The bell chimed again, and a group of women entered, chatting excitedly about the new store. I greeted them with a genuine smile, ready to embrace this new chapter of my life. As I helped customers and shared the story behind each carefully selected piece in my boutique, I realized something profound. The betrayal that had nearly broken me had instead set me free. I was no longer defined by my marriage or my role as a housewife. I was Harper, entrepreneur, survivor, and architect of my own happiness. The sun streamed through the windows, illuminating the vibrant colors of my new life. Outside, the world was full of possibilities, and for the first time in years, I couldn't wait to explore them all.